go. I'm Tom Tercek, co-founder of Pumpjack Dataworks, where we specialize in providing data monetization solutions for sports and entertainment rights holders. About a year ago, Spotify approached FC Barcelona about a very comprehensive sponsorship deal, including naming rights. This was a big deal. And as part of that conversation, they asked about their fan database. Specifically, Spotify wanted to know how many of their fans were registered fans. And by registered, what I mean is fans who had provided consent to the club to use name, email, postal code, and other personal information. And that appealed to Spotify as part of their quest to get closer aligned to first-party data. Now, Barcelona is a club, it's a unique club, massive fan following, over 350 million fans throughout the world. It's a top 3 sports club, bar none, in the entire world. And that number was what was so attractive to Spotify. However, the answer they got back in return to that question left Spotify a little shocked and disappointed. Of 350 million fans, only 1% were registered. 1%. So they still ended up doing the deal, although it was a different kind of a deal, because that loss of addressable fan data reduced that overall deal by as much as $100 million to that bottom line. And when the news on that deal was reported to the trades, it served as a clarion call to the entire sports and entertainment industry about the power and value of fan data. So Corey and I are excited here today to talk to you all about what Pumpjack is doing to help those rights holders achieve that value and monetize those assets. Now, our clients control an incredible amount of valuable and useful first-party data. That's contact information, transactional information, every level of digital engagement, all their preferences, all stitched together and unified through our product, Fanbank. And typically, that information in sports organizations is used for what I'll call internal optimization. That's improving reach or maybe increasing conversion rate because you have a better picture of who your fans are. But with data, the interesting thing about data is it's not limited to internal optimization. There's also this enormous opportunity for external optimization through data products. Products that appeal to a whole new field of potential buyers out there, whether that's through subscriptions or a la carte products, both of which generate new recurring revenue to these teams, critical revenue that most teams are after. The other thing is that as I illustrated with Barcelona and Spotify, most of these large brands now have got marketing partners, sponsors that are savvy, and they want access to that data as part of the deal, with every deal, because they know it's out there, and they're willing to pay to access it. It's a premium, right? So it's an asset that's untapped and unrealized, and it represents an enormous opportunity to the global sports and entertainment industries. Yet still, it can be difficult for rights holders to consider this concept of licensing their first-party data. It's a new idea, and this is a fairly conservative marketplace. When we talk to prospects about this idea of leveraging their data assets to generate additional revenue, we're often met with some hesitance. We hear some things like, data belongs to IT. They're not focused on revenue. Well, maybe they should be, because if they were, and they were incentivized, I can guarantee you the output of their actions would be very different than what they're doing today. Data is expensive. There's no way to make money. Well, one thing I can tell you is data or any technology that is not directly aligned to revenue is a cost item. And in sports, those cost items are up for review every year. But with data, it's a non-depleting asset. So you can sell the same product multiple times. And this is the opportunity that's facing these organizations. Legal will say no. Of course, legal will say no. Legal always says no. They're trained to say no. But this is largely an education issue. And we found that with a little discussion and education about new safety protocols that are in place to protect that data and the new opportunities that revenue can generate in terms of new revenue streams for these organizations, they tend to change their tune. And my favorite, I have no idea what our data is even worth. Well, at Pumpjack, through our data valuation engine, we actually do know what their data is worth. We can look at any data set and understand its market value, and we share that with all of our clients. So it's a complex concept, to be sure, but it's not a new one, because banks, analysts, and especially media buyers have been buying data products like this for years from other industries. It's just that sports is new. So there's clearly a huge market opportunity for this. We just need some pieces to be put into place. And as a result, it's data that's unrealized, right? And that's largely because it's viewed as an expense. It's a tool for running internal reports, right? There's no guidelines in place for the marketplace to understand what they're supposed to do with their data and how they can share data. That concept of sharing is new to sports, and it's somewhat unknown, right? And as a result, they're not sharing data with partners. They're only sharing it in decks to represent a campaign effort. Whatever they're doing, it's all internal. And as a result of all this, it's not generating any revenue. That data is just sitting there locked in a warehouse. And that's because there's no understanding of its true value. What's needed is a really simple solution to help these rights holders achieve this new value. It's an unfound value that's right there in front of them. So at Pumpjack, what we're doing is we're creating a new asset class for rights holders to be able to turn that fan data into revenue. We call it a data lease. And with that data lease, the model's a little different here. It allows you to actually package and sell your data or license that data to anyone. Anyone can simply do this, and it comes with a few key attributes. The first is the model's adaptable, right? We're not talking about selling static data products the way the market has traditionally approached this, but it's completely available to them to sell and resell because data is a non-depleting asset. You can sell the same products over and over and over. This is very different from what they do currently with their sponsorship partners that may pay for exclusive access for a campaign, and that's great, but this now opens up another marketplace. The data is never stale. In our model, it's constantly refreshing and it's updated, which is important with sports if you're tracking a team or a league development year over year for any kind of game. It's adaptable to all the privacy networks like GDPR and CCPA, and that's critical because as those rules evolve and change, and they will continue to, we're very responsive, and that flows immediately down to our clients. And in this world, because you can license your deal, we're not talking about buying static data sets the way the world used to be. This is about live data, right? And live data allows an analyst to purchase data over time, knowing that they're always getting the most recent data. So this is year-over-year subscriptions or season over season for whatever their needs are. That appeals to these buyers, and this makes it a whole lot easier. And just like teams have long-term relationships with their sponsorship partners, this now affords a new type of relationship between the buyer and seller. It's a revenue stream that just didn't exist before. So, to explain about how all this works and how any rights holder can actually convert their data into a monetizable asset, I'm going to bring up my colleague, Corey Zwart, to explain this and walk you through it. Corey.
Thanks, Tom. Everybody, thanks, Tom. So a data lease, it sounds simple. It's a little bit more complex. I'd like to take a few minutes and kind of walk you through about how Pumpjack solves that with our partners at Databricks, Immuta, and Revelate. Now, the data lease, what's its definition? What does it mean? And without putting up a giant slide deck of a wall of text of trying to outline what this is, I'd rather walk through some of the decisions of how we came to this and why we think it's actually a really good change in the paradigm for sports and the data marketplace as a whole. And it all starts with data. Throughout my career, I've worked in a number of different industries: law enforcement, medical, and financial. Those industries were very static with their data structures, with their schemas. The number of sources were very limited. When I moved over to sports, that was completely different. We're talking about ticketing, merchandise, concessions. We're talking about engagement with fans on mobile or web properties, surveys on Wi-Fi, right? There's so many different data points out there, which means there's a ton of problems with standardization. Formats are different everywhere you look. First thing we do at Pumpjack, we have a product called Fanbank. It aggregates and combines all those different data sources together into a single easy to query structure, kind of getting rid of that big problem. Once they get all that data into one place, they can run analytics on it, they can run questions against it, actually begin understanding their fan base a little bit better, create audiences, segmentations, and so forth. One of the things that we ask potential clients is, what is your engagement plan? Like, what do you actually activate on with your data? A lot of them say, well, to Tom's point, we run internal reports on this. We just want to see what we're actually doing as a business. Or we run an email campaign. Is that it? There's so many things you can do with this data that you're kind of limiting yourself. But they don't quite understand it. And part of that is they don't understand the value of that data. So our data valuation engine, which is a patent pending process that we're actually creating, can take a number of different inputs, and we'll get over that in just a little bit. But once we show them what the value of that data is, we begin exploring a little bit more about those data products with them. Again, going towards what more can you do than that mail campaign to get revenue back into your organization through this marketplace and into the hands of others. Now, the benefits for a rights holder can be tremendous, but the current process available to package, secure, value, and sell data can be very daunting. And in particular, there are 3 specific sets of challenges that a customer faces in setting up their data for transaction and that a buyer faces when selecting the appropriate data products for their needs. First and foremost is creating those data products. And I think this is where we're going to start becoming a little bit more unique than some of the data marketplaces you've seen out there. One of the big key things in there that we've mentioned is that you can obviously create audiences in your data, right? Like, show me all the people in this zip code, or show me all the people in this age group that enjoy doing this. Some behavioral data, some demographic data, purchasing tickets, so forth. The difference that we're putting on top of this is these data products can also exist as a single data trait. We've all gone to marketplaces, I'm sure. Everybody in this room has some kind of interest in a marketplace. And they go to take a look at some data sets out there, and it's a giant table. It might have 2, 3, 4 different traits that you're actually interested in buying, but there's 20 or 30 that you don't care about. What does that mean? Bloated cost, redundant purchases. So by being able to create data products on a data marketplace that are specific data traits, we can kind of eliminate that redundancy, that over-purchasing. It helps with budgetary concerns and so forth. Once the client creates their product, enter in the description, enter in the details. Real simple. Our valuation engine provides the suggestions of what that audience or trait should be marketed as. You can choose it, you can deny it, put in your own. You might negotiate with a sponsor to say, hey, I've created a special audience for you. This one is exactly what you're looking for. You've negotiated the price previously, put that price in there, push it out, no big deal. Part of that is also inviting the people to see that data product. Is it existing, or are you going to invite some new people? Is it somebody that registered on the marketplace individually, or is it somebody you know personally, your sponsors? Once you're done, save it, publish this out to the Revelate marketplace, hosted by Revelate for Pumpjack Exchange. Now, as I mentioned, who you market to is very important. Those sponsors, they expect certain data sets, and they expect it a certain way. And with our product, you can either invite straight from our product itself in Fanbank, or you can register directly on the Revelate marketplace, and both systems will actually then synchronize together their user stores and publish out these new users to a profile in Immuta. This is a very key important piece. Immuta being access attribute-based access control is really the key to how all of this works. Now, the process of, PowerPoint. Hey, Tom. Where is this? It's a Mac. Oh, there we go. The demo gods are not smiling. Well, presentation gods. All right. All right, continuing. Now, the process of purchasing a product, it should feel seamless to the consumer. You know, buying something should feel real simple. Even if it's very complex behind the scenes, you really need to, for that experience, create a very easy path for the purchaser. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. So you need to kind of create that real, true experience. And through this process, the purchaser, they're going to go ahead and just, like any other store, add products to their cart. They're going to go ahead and go through that purchase process. Revelate notifies Pumpjack of the purchase being done. Now it's just going to go through the fulfillment. And this is where it starts getting a little bit more of the technical side, which I think is exciting. We're not putting up a lot of workflows because, yay, Visio. But essentially what happens is, once Pumpjack is notified, we update the user permissions, the attributes on that Immuta profile for that user with the attributes being purchased. So email, that becomes a new permission. The actual team they're buying the data from becomes a permission, and so forth. And all these attributes themselves go together in the back end to create a table based on what that user is able to see. Now, the table is then shared with DeltaShare, very key here for the data lease. And once that DeltaShare is actually created, we then notify Revelate that the fulfillment is complete, and here's the link for the DeltaShare. Here's the actual sharing key. At that point, the buyer of the product just logs in like they normally would with any of their platforms that support DeltaShare, connect to it, immediately have access to that data. Because of that process, because of us leveraging the user profile in Immuta, adding new products over time is now a different experience. Before, when you go to a marketplace and buy a product, you get the export of that CSV. Every time you buy something, a new export. It's a whole new process to import, mount, clean, and so forth. With us, because we're doing both with Immuta user profiles and with Delta sharing, we're able to just update the user profile with new additional attributes as they add them, or as they purchase them, which then goes through and updates that Delta share table. So it's the same share, same table, fulfillment complete. That's great for those different use cases of different internal teams, maybe a data science team, maybe your commercial team, buying different kinds of data. You don't want to have multiple different mounts to different types of files. One connection, you can grow with it over time. Now, the valuation engine is pretty important for this process. And kind of going a little bit deeper on that valuation itself is kind of the way that we actually figure out the value of that data, and I think a lot of people are interested in this. But essentially, these values can come from a multitude of different sources, whether it's third-party market valuation auditors, right? Something like Pricewaterhouse or something. Whether it's Pumpjack-defined values, things that we have seen for trends in the market. More importantly, feedback from this marketplace. As purchases happen with these data attributes, we get instant information of what's being bought at what price back into the valuation engine, so we can say, look, this is the trends, this is what's happening, people are buying these traits, this is the value that it's being sold for. We're seeing sponsors go for this amount, and it's going to contain this email address trait, and this is what we think it should be. And then beyond that, it allows us to do calculations for the rights holder themselves, so if they have a special way of calculating their value, they can enter that in as well. Once they choose their configurations applied to all their data in Fanbank. They can see the database value, they can see the specific product values, suggestions, and so forth. So they don't just get to see it when they create products, they actually get to see it throughout the system. And then just updates all that value. I want to kind of take a pause here because I think this is important to talk about. We talk with a lot of smaller teams, not just large teams, right? Not big organization or leagues, but some of the smaller teams, we hear very consistently back, why would somebody buy data from us? We are a small soccer team in the middle of Florida. We don't have a lot of data. Why would this global international apparel company want to get data from us? There's no reason for it. And that comes back down to where the big organizations buy their data from. We're talking social platforms, right? That's where pretty much they all get them from. What do you get from a social platform? How confident are you in the data and the accuracy of that data? Is it a bot farm? Is it a sentiment kind of guidance? Are there trolls out there just trying to change things? Are they providing it because, providing their data points because they want to, or because that's just, what they are used to doing? I enter 1/1/1969 every year for my birthday, or every platform. That's not my birthday. So understanding the confidence level, when it comes to social platforms, it's really assumptive data. When you look at a rights holder and the different data sources they have, if I'm buying a jersey, I'm giving my address because that's where I want the jersey to be shipped to. If I'm picking up tickets, I'm going to show up with my ID and that's who I am. If I'm joining a fantasy league, I'm probably going to give the right information because I'm a part of a community, right? So the confidence level, the actual data value itself is much higher, being more of a presumptive data point from these rights holders. So once we get them informed on that, they understand that they are more valuable than the social platform that they're usually getting data from. One big benefit for the on-platform customers, which is fun to highlight, when one customer actually purchases data from another customer on the Revelate marketplace, once that actually gets pulled back and synchronized with us, Immuta updates with that user profile for our internal customers as well. Our STS system updates the claims and entitlements, understands which tables they're now having access to internal to the entire system, and then provides full sources to be listed into that client's portal for analytics and activations. They don't have to leave, it's immediate, it's right there. Take another little pause here and get on a candid soapbox. I think this is important to understand. Conferences love to have this call to action. Ours is very close to my own philosophy, and it's very close to the company's philosophy, and that's respect. Respect for the fans, which in this case, and a lot of us understand here, working with privacy frameworks, I'm sure you've heard it, data residence. It could be you, it could be the person sitting next to you. It could be your family member that you call every Thanksgiving. It could be the person you go home to at night. And so when it comes to data and respect, I think that is key. Every one of our systems are built with a privacy and permission and consent-based approach. And the reason we went down the path of a data lease is about that. We could have done what every marketplace does with creating just the basic table export. Here you want a CSV, go. But what happens to the consent when somebody says, don't sell my data anymore? How many downstream systems are affected by the change in that consent? You know how long it takes to get and how many emails you get when you say, don't market to me, and you still get them for months? It's probably because somebody's sitting there working off an old CSV. So by creating the data lease and foregoing all those quick financial gains, we're creating a system that says, here's a single source of truth. Connect to it, use it, it's fresh, it's new. Somebody says don't sell, don't market, immediately removed. No longer have access. All of your campaigns are accurate. All of your activations are accurate. You don't have to worry about it. It's one connection. And I think that's important too, is that a lot of teams, a lot of organizations as a whole don't understand that concept of single source of truth. It's their data. They should really own it and hold it and control it, making sure that it's accurate. They're on the hook if somebody calls and says, GDPR, so-and-so, I said forget, I'm getting notifications. Guess who gets lawsuits? Now, I can't go away without a wait, there's more moment. Because of our partnership with Revelate, one of the big important things they do is omni-channel marketing for data products. They're actually able to cross-post these products on Databricks marketplaces, Snowflake, I know, bad word, AWS, and more coming soon. That means more exposure for marketing of these data products to academics and research. It means easier searching for people on the platforms that they're familiar with and comfortable with, all from the same place. So more money, more revenue for these teams, better budget control for the purchasers, and better accessibility. And with this combined data ecosystem, leveraging Pumpjack and our valued partners, it now makes it possible for a rights holder to achieve new value. We've eliminated the friction in setup, processing, pricing, and selling of their data to bring new product availability to a buying community eager to access it. Data products for rights holders can now be more secure, dynamic, and adaptable, providing buyers the insights necessary for their analysis and driving unlimited recurring revenue to the rights holders' bottom lines. It's a new paradigm in sports. It's a new paradigm in data marketplaces. And we're excited to kick it off. Appreciate everybody coming out. We'll be around here over on the side if you guys have questions. We'd love to talk to you.